I just shared this article, so let me talk about it for a minute, and then we'll get to the stuff you and I planned on talking about. And I'm interested in your response to this too. Axios just published something with the headline "News Engagement Plummets as Americans Tune Out." Uh, Social media interactions with news articles is down 50% from 2021 to 2022. Cable news primetime viewers down 19%. News media app sessions down 16%. Unique visits to top 5 news sites down 18%. And one of the reasons they're citing, in addition to mass shootings and inflation and everything else, is also, whoops, where do you go? Ilya, you're
No,
not
I'm
supposed
here. I am. I'm here. I just. Oh, I think my phone is too low. That's why the picture. So I wanted to use the opportunity to put the
All right. So anyway, one of the reasons they're citing that people are tuning out is because of the war in Ukraine. I mean, there's just and we've talked about this here on the show from the beginning that at some point people are just going to get tired of hearing about it. That doesn't help the people of Ukraine because the war goes on whether we're interested in it or not.
Unfortunately, we are not tired of dying. That's a problem.
Yes. Yes. Are you seeing a drop off like this with February morning?
No, we see a rather a certain stabilization in terms of growth. We had a pretty much explosive growth in the first month, but for us, the turning point is not because of some tiredness or whatever. For us, the turning point were the Bucha massacre, the events there, and after we were growing like this, and then it started. It's still growing, but it's growing way more slowly because people just don't want to hear about this. And our audience is in Russia, so it's not a question of like being tired or not tired. Russians anyway, they hear about the war all the time. Obviously, not to that degree as Ukrainians who are inside the war. And today there were another mass bombings and shellings of Ukrainian city. This morning it was a large-scale missile attack on several important cities, including Kiev. So we cannot forget about it. But Russians, they just pretend, okay, so it's like a soccer match, somewhere there. So we want to see the score, but we maybe rather not to watch it ourselves.
Well, and they're also most Russians, I'm guessing, are not getting accurate news anyway. So the news is being spun in a way that's designed to be more palatable. I'm not talking about your viewers, but most Russians have not found out about February morning yet. So they're getting fed something that's a different version of the news than is actually reliable and accurate.
No, that is true. And one of the outrageous things this morning, again after this missile attack on one of Ukrainian cities, its name is Vinnytsia. It's like 200 miles away from Kiev, even less than 200 miles, not very far. And this is where Ukrainian Air Force headquarters are. And they, because I've been in Vinnytsia several times recently, I know the chief commander of the Air Force, and I know that they are relocating the headquarters of there because they were afraid of the missile attack before. But for some reason, Russia never tried. And this night they actually tried. But they missed because they no longer have those high precision missiles. So they totally missed. They just bombed the center of the city, the downtown area, which is pretty far away from the Air Force headquarters, even the official building, despite that they are not there, in fact. But, so they totally missed it. And those propaganda guys this morning, they published pictures from center of Vinnytsia claiming that it's not Vinnytsia, but it's some small town where there was some military outpost and everything. And like for Ukrainians, the Ukrainians know that it's Vinnytsia. Like you see, it's a very recognizable
Yes.
landscape. It's downtown. It's all very visible. There are some unique features there. But for those Russian propaganda guys, they don't know. They just act. That's some different place, and obviously Russians cannot judge, and then they don't know. We're trying to reveal this trick, but how many people would actually learn about it? Obviously, we don't know.
Do you think the propaganda guys made a mistake, a miscalculation, or did they do it deliberately to justify the righteousness of the missile itself?
I think both. I think
Mhm.
both. I mean, firstly, they all the time claim when one or another attack happens that the target was some military outpost, some military facility, some regiment, or something like this. For example, when they recently destroyed the shopping mall in Kremenchuk, which is in the center of the country, and just it's a regular shopping mall. And they attacked it in the middle of the day when it was crowded with people. So there were several dozens casualties in that shopping mall. They put it on fire, and obviously there was nothing military there. It's a regular shopping mall, and there's a lot of evidence that it's a regular shopping mall. These are car parks. These are people who were within. They were making selfies. They were making videos. What happened after the attack? So that again, you cannot falsify it because there was a lot of people. But nevertheless, Russians claimed that there was a military facility inside that was disguised as a shopping mall, but all the rest is just fake because in reality it's a military, legitimate military target. But in case of Phoenix, you start to claim that it's not in Vinnytsia, like how stupid that can be, because you see that it is Vinnytsia,
Yeah.
it's very recognizable on the picture.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I want to do, I want to put the link to your Telegram feed. So what we've been talking about, if you're new to the show, is almost, well, I think literally the day after Russia invaded, Ilya had already joined the military defense, and it was realized. And why do I know a lot of this? Because there's a book coming out called "Does Putin Have to Die?" and a lot of this is in the book. And we're going to talk about that in a minute too. But you had thought you had enlisted in the military defense, and then they realized there was a more powerful way you could support the Ukrainian efforts, which is creating this YouTube channel, which is a live TV channel called February Morning. And if you're new to the show, what Ilya and his team are doing is broadcasting Russian news about the war in Russian to Russians so that they can get accurate information about what's happening. And your viewership numbers are impressive as hell. And the fact that you built this, you actually gave us a tour one day. You know, Ilya and his team built this studio and got all the equipment together and we're broadcasting, I think, in 2 or 3 days. I mean, it's in the middle of a war. It was, that alone is going to go down in communications history. But that's what we're talking about February Morning and providing accurate news. And I just put a link in the chat. If you click that, that'll go to a Telegram feed, and you can hit each of the posts there and translate it into English because it's in Russian for Russians, but you can translate it into English. So it's a very valuable way of seeing from inside Ukraine the news which is being reported for Russians. It's a very valuable tool. So I wanted to share that. I want to talk about the book for a minute too. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We're losing you, Ilya. Oop. All right. Well, I'm going to keep talking, and I hope Ilya can come back. Um, we talked last week. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We lost you for.
Yes. I will.
Oh, we're no volume. Okay, I'm going to keep talking and we'll see if Ilya can work that out.
Thank
Um,
you. What I two very unusual people. You know, in our information sphere, Putin is mobilizing a lot of people from national republics of Russia, and one of the most known republic that has sent a lot of soldiers, obviously against its will. It's a Republic of Buryatia in eastern Siberia, right next to Baikal Lake. And Ukrainians know that there are a lot of Buryats coming to fight against Ukraine in the ranks of Russian military. But actually, it was on Monday, I believe, there was a major defection.
hmm,
500 of Buryat fighters, they defected Russian army. And the foundation that I helped to create and build called Free Buryatia, actually helped those guys to return back home. And Russian authorities did not dare to prosecute them because they
hmm,
didn't dare to provoke a national uprising in the republic. They prefer not to touch it. And the funny thing is that the former, not just prime minister, but also minister of defense of Ukraine, Yuri Khadurov, is ethnically Buryat.
hmm,
And so we had right now a discussion between those soldiers, between the chairman of this Free Buryatia Foundation and the former prime minister of Ukraine, which are all Buryat. And we were
hmm.
talking about whether whether Russia would stay united, what is the future of all those national territories in the country, what about their culture, about their languages, and about the attitude of people to each other. It was, a really exciting discussion.
I want to dig into what you just said a little bit. Um, 500 soldiers from this region defected from the military, and you're saying the Russian military doesn't want to prosecute them because then that creates bigger waves and other soldiers and their mothers. Frankly, I think their mothers are a big
Mother
factor
played a
here,
important
right?
role. Yeah.
Begin to realize, oh, I can walk away too. So the military needs to sweep this under the carpet and not give anybody else any ideas. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 100%. Also, a week ago, we published a photo, which was very funny. It's for like a counter propaganda thing. In one of military regiments back in Russia, a brigade, on their in their headquarters area in their main fort where they stationed, they made a huge poster with a lot of faces, a lot of small photos, like several hundreds of them. Those guys defected from the war. Those guys refused to fight, or something like that. That was like the slogan. It was literally hundreds of them.
Hmm.
And the thing is, firstly, they by doing this, they wanted to bring shame on those people.
Yes.
But by doing this, that they have to bring shame, they are achieving two things. Firstly, they're saying in public that people are defecting within the large numbers.
Yep.
Secondly, they say they're not being prosecuted. That they can defect, and nothing would happen to them. So obviously, all Russia opposition was sharing this photo all across the country. Saying, great, firstly, those guys, we have to be proud of them.
Yes.
They
Yes.
defected and they did not take part in the war. And secondly, look at their example. Everything is fine with them. They were not punished at all. They even didn't lose their job. They continue to serve in the military, without any consequences. Because if they would be punished, it would create a major problem for Vladimir Putin, because then the situation would really start to develop. So they prefer just to ignore that those people do not
Hmm.
exist.
Well, I read just before we started talking today, and it was a tweet by somebody, so it was on Twitter, and they were talking about how it is now required that every region in Russia provide one. I don't know the correct military term, but they have to provide a I didn't serve, so my command of military language is not very good, but they have to command each region has to provide at least one set of troops of men
Hmm.
up to
Yeah,
50
regiment. Yeah. Hmm.
and
Yeah.
this begins to give you the idea that, you know, we're losing troops or not gaining troops fast enough to fight the war. And the incentive to join, of course, is high pay. So paying more and
That's right.
more. Uh,
They, the Russian Duma, Russian Parliament, lifted the limitation on the age.
mhm,
Previously, you cannot serve in the ground troops and be sent to a military conflict. Even you cannot sign in the contract with the military if you are above 45 years. But right now, this limitation is lifted because they cannot recruit enough people. And right now, they're trying to recruit because they increased the retirement age for 5 years. So now there is this layer of people who were thinking they were about to retire. I mean, that's just on the civil service, right?
yeah.
It's not in the military and who have military experience in the past, because some of them, for example, were fighting in Afghanistan and everything. And now they're particularly targeting that layer of the population with their ads that, so you can get a nice pension package, nice salary. You can compensate for this actually. Loss in the years of retirement by joining the military,
Mm.
and you can get nice money, and that's basically where they hope to get some trained soldiers from.
So is it a good is the payment enough to attract a lot of people? And does it also come with some kind of pension? So there's a, you know, there's a back end guarantee of income that might appeal to some potential soldiers?
Payment is really large.
Oh,
It's very generous. So obviously, in the poor regions, in rural areas, I think they will get some, but it's not enough to change the situation. So my maximum anticipation how much they can collect across the country will be maybe around 10,000 people.
mm.
That's the absolute maximum number that I can think of, and that would not make a difference.
And if I'm enticed by this offer of pay, it, does it, am I signing up until the end of this conflict with Ukraine, or am I signing up for 2 years or 5 years, or do you know those kind of details?
Yeah, I don't know. You usually sign in for a certain period of time.
Uh-huh.
Most usual contract is 5 years, but you can sign 1 year contract as well. So it depends on how you would negotiate, but
Mhm.
nevertheless, it's a certain time period. It's not linked to the particular war because you are not officially
You're not, there is no war.
going to.
So
Yeah,
that's
no, yeah, even for special operation, you are not being recruited to take part in the certain campaign.
yeah,
You're recruited to take part in the military,
right.
and but everybody understand firstly that they are going at war. Secondly, there are grades of pay, and if you take part in the conflict, even it's not called a war, but nevertheless it's a military conflict, you are getting way higher compensation than if you don't do it.
Okay. All right. And the last thing I want to ask you about this is you talked about the defectors in the poster and the 500 soldiers who defected in this one region. Um, are you finding that any of those soldiers who defect literally leave the country and go somewhere else, like Ukraine or other countries where they're welcome?
No, that's my whole point. Actually, they would be very, very, very much reluctant. to defect and to go to another country. And again, you should understand the profile of such person who is actually defecting. It's a very, very ordinary person. It's really it's a common guy. I would guess that probably 99% of them were never abroad, even in Ukraine. They don't speak other languages, and soldiers, they usually like 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old, right? So they're very young, absolutely ignorant. They didn't see the light and everything.
Right.
My whole point is that they manage not to serve, to refuse to follow orders and not being punished.
Yeah.
That's actually exactly the thing that we are trying to promote right now.
So
Because
they're going home and
uh,
sleeping. They're going home and sleeping in their own bed.
yeah, that's exactly right. Even they continue to serve in their military regiment just back home and not in the front line. Because the point is that when it's an officer, when it's a commander who refuses to follow orders, yes, he would be then put on trial because he understands what he is doing. But when it's with a soldier or when a sergeant, it appears that they are
Yes.
free to go.
Yes. And there's just too many. You can't have 500 trials anyway. It's just it's too big demand.
They're afraid of touching this.
Yeah.
So that's an extremely valuable piece of information. That is something that we'll focus on promoting in Russia, so that if you don't want to go, just resign.
Yeah. Huh. All right. I'm going to change gears. We talked last week about the book. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look over my shoulder here, somewhere over there. There's a book cover. There it is. This is Ilya's book, originally written in Russian. He had a little help translating it into English. Coming out in about a month.
Not a little, very significant one.
Say that again.
Not little, very, very significant one.
Well, I was trying to keep the ball where it belongs, which is the original book was 700 pages long. The new book will be about 240.
That's the most painful part of work, by the way.
That's right. It's the cutting what is on the cutting room floor, I'm sure, is very painful. But there's material there for 2 or 3 more books. So take solace in that. I'm bringing that up because last week we talked about it. And one of the things we talked about was making available signed copies. And we're going to do that, but there's been a little bit of a development that I hadn't anticipated that I want to share here so everybody knows what's going on. And that is, in conversations with the publisher, he pointed out that our goal as a group, frankly, should be to get as many people as we can to buy Ilya's book on the same day in about a month when it comes out. And Ilya and I have not even had a chance to talk about this. I texted you or messaged you a little bit about this, but the goal is to get as many sales as we can on one day, because there's an algorithm, right, at Amazon and at the New York Times. And if lots of people buy the book over a week, that's not the same impact on the algorithm as lots of people buying the book on the same day. And so we want to drive people to all buy the same book on the same day so that Ilya's book becomes a bestseller. And then the algorithm pushes it up in so that more and more people that we don't even know yet are exposed to the book. So last week I talked about a landing page and encouraging you to buy the book. Hold off, don't buy it yet. We'll let you know when. There will be a landing page. There will be autographed copies. We're going to work out the details of this, and we're going to keep talking about it, because I can tell you, other than Ilya, I've read this book probably 5 times myself now, and you will want to read it. It is very good. Ilya is a hell of a storyteller. There's some really great stories in there, but it'll also just give you some incredible insight into the world of Russia, the world of this conflict. And really, the point of the book is, what's the future? What's next for Russia? And how can the Russian people have the best possible future? And that really is the point. But to get there, you have to have a lot of understanding of the past as well. And frankly, Ilya, there's a lot of stuff that made me laugh out loud every time I read the book. And so you've done a hell of a job, and I'm really proud to have had a chance to help you.
Okay. I am trying to put there something more.
Yeah,
As I said in my Russian version, the objective was that the reader loves everything.
well, I mean, you touch on some things in the book that aren't they're not funny, frankly. I mean, there's tragedy in the book, and there's global tragedy and personal human tragedy. Um, that being said, I think I encourage everyone to buy it. Just don't buy it today. We're gonna keep talking about it. We're gonna tell you about the right day. We're gonna tell you the landing page to get your autographed copy. And just we're thrilled you're part of the show. Keep sharing the show. Keep sharing it with your friends. In fact, let me as I like to do, let me put a link in here so you can share it with others. Bear with me. Here we go. Keep sharing this link with your friends and family. Get them to join us as well. And when you follow that link and go to that page, the shows are being archived as well. So, for instance, this show will go up and be available sometime tomorrow. All the previous shows are there and available. So, keep staying engaged. Everything we can do to help Ilya spread the word. That's the point of this book, is really to spread the word. You know, by virtue of the fact that you're here, you understand and are invested in Russia being a country that Russians want to live in, and that is part of the bigger world in a positive way, instead of fighting wars like the one we have with Ukraine. Am I summarizing that well, Ilya?
No, absolutely, absolutely. You are right on spot, and I really hope that one day all those wars and confrontation will be behind us, and Russia indeed would be the part of the greater picture.
Yeah. Well, Aletta asks the question, do
Absolutely.
you still believe the war will end in Moscow? And, I think the title gives you some clue about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm working my ass off, to make it happen exactly in this way, So that's what is my primary focus in life, and I think that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but when Ilya says it's his primary focus, this guy is working his ass off all day with February morning, and doing other interviews around the world with U.S. press, European press, Ukrainian press. Are you actually talking at all with Russian media at this point?
Not so much. I have a Russian media myself, right? Why would I talk to them?
Well, that's a good
Yeah,
point. Good point.
yeah, but no, but my primary focus is not the media activity. My primary focus is the organizational grassroots activity back in Russia.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm facilitating right now.
Well, I can tell you he's working his ass off, because I know when he's been writing and editing this book it's very late.
Yeah, because in the
Very late at night.
daytime, I'm
That's the only time I have.
yeah, in the daytime, I'm always on the phone, either with Russian regions or with Ukrainian military. So one way or another.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up for today.